It's really hard to talk about the Marvel Universe and not actually talk a little bit about Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr.'s version of Tony Stark's shadow is cast massively over the Marvel Universe, and there's no place that was felt more than in the Spider-Man franchise. Recently, one of the writers of the project, Chris McKenna, talked a little bit about Marvel Studios' attitude towards Iron Man and how they feel about bringing the character back into the MCU. I got news for you, it's probably a no-starter. Now, before we dive into this though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. Also, the big giveaway. We just broke 25,000 subscribers and we're about to give away this PlayStation 5. Stay tuned to the channel for an announcement really soon. We have notified a winner. Also, while you're at it, make sure you check out that free Week of Skillshare down below. It's a pretty cool way for you to develop all of your superhero skills for that never-ending war on crime, all while not diving too deep into your pockets. Plus, it really does help the channel, so we really appreciate it. Well, it's really hard to believe, but if you go back in time to before the birth of the MCU, Iron Man was considered by many to be a B-list hero. He had been a staple of the Avengers and been part of Marvel Comics for quite a long time, but he just wasn't one of those heroes that was at the forefront, and this is actually why Marvel Studios still had the rights to the character. Now, let's be real, Robert Downey Jr. brought Tony Stark to life, and the overall value of the MCU can largely be contributed to his work and how he did in that first movie. If that first Iron Man movie didn't work, the whole franchise would definitely be different than what we know today. Now, Tony Stark's character made his presence felt very strongly in the Spider-Man franchise, especially Spider-Man Homecoming. Quite honestly, a lot of fans even referred to Peter Parker as Iron Boy, especially because the second movie, Far From Home, devoted a ton of time to the fallout of Tony Stark's death. Now, by the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, Peter Parker had become fully his own person and was completely out of Iron Man's shadow. Now, recently, one of the writers of the project, Chris McKenna, was talking a little bit with the Q&A podcast and dove into how Marvel is moving away from the Armored Avenger and how they're very unlikely to bring him back. This is what he had to say. I think, honestly, that's a non-starter in the halls of Marvel, at least in our experience. They just don't really like constantly invoking Iron Man. I mean, obviously, Tony cast such a large shadow even after Endgame, which we dealt with in Far From Home, but I think everyone felt like we just can't keep going to the Tony well. Now, I find this pretty interesting because there has been a ton of rumors that Iron Man, or at least a variant of Iron Man, could be part of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But it appears a resurrection of the hero is not in the works for Marvel Studios. Now, this is really not very surprising. The Endgame sacrifice was very well done, and it landed perfectly, so bringing him back could be a mistake. There is a possibility, though, of Tony Stark showing up in Secret Wars, but how they tell that tale, and if they can even secure Robert Downey Jr., is a completely different matter. Now, we do know Ironheart is on its way, and it appears that War Machine might end up being the mentor character there, but there have been some rumors that the hologram version of Tony Stark could appear in that series, but I'm not holding my breath. Honestly, I tend to agree here. I want my Spider-Man out of the shadow of Tony Stark. It made the MCU's version of Peter Parker fairly unique, and I can totally appreciate that, but I want Spider-Man free to grow the way Spider-Man is supposed to be. And after a little while, it did feel a little inhibited by his relationship with Tony Stark. Now, obviously, if anything pops up with Iron Man, Tony Stark, or even variants, we're going to bring it to you right away. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Peter Parker is better off out of the shadow of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man? And do you think there's any way Marvel Studios could bring the character back without any backlash? Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you press like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you're not going to get any updates. Peace.